Ladies and gentlemen, if you woke up every morning and you turned to your wife and she said to you, I really don't like you. You're not a very nice man. You'll never please me like other men can. If only I had another man in my life. If only he was here. If only he could help me. Because you can't even take out the rubbish. Just lie on the sofa all day. Fairly useless. How long would it be, as the man in the relationship, before you ask your wife if she's so unhappy, why doesn't she find a new husband? Why doesn't she leave you? Why doesn't she just leave? And how much longer after being told how much you're inadequate, you can't please her like any other man can, before you say to her, you know what, leave. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is what Fikile Mbalula basically says he feels like when dealing with Helen Zille in the GNU. But before we get on to the main news story, for those of you who have bought me a coffee, thank you very much. And for those of you who haven't, you're welcome to. The link is in the description box below. So let's get on to the main story. So Fikile Mbalula basically says that the ANC don't like this GNU thing. You know why? Because he has to wake up every morning and listen to Helen Zille moan. He says that all they ever do is class the ANC as corrupt, incompetent, useless. That the business community wanted the DA to save South Africa. That the business community wanted the DA and not the ANC. That the whole of South Africa wanted the DA and not the ANC, even though the DA didn't actually get the popular vote. So Fikile Mbalula asks a general question. If this was your wife, would you really want to put up with this, like, indefinitely? Because he says they don't. He says actually what he feels is happening is that Helen Zille is trying to undermine the work of the ANC. Now, I would say Fikile, she's not trying to undermine the work of the ANC, because the ANC doesn't actually do much. Now, I both know that. But what she is attempting to do is defame the ANC, to undermine it in the views of the audience or the views of the general public, so that when it gets through to the next elections, let us not forget that the local government elections are not actually that far from now, that the DA may get a little bit more votes than they did before. In other words, they could win some more wards. They could be more influential at a local level. But let's face it, the way that they intend to do that is to undermine the ANC. Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is a strategy. But it's not a strategy that benefits both sides. It's a strategy that benefits only one party. And overall, you may ask yourself the question, if the DA is attempting to cannibalize the ANC from the inside out, the very thing that they accused the EFF of wanting to do many, many times, then one has to ask the question, why would the ANC just stand there and get taken advantage of? You see, any relationship requires both sides to mutually benefit. That's the thing in business. One party benefits from a contractual relationship and the other party doesn't. It's not a very good contractual relationship, and eventually the side that doesn't benefit is going to get hurtful and tell you to, do one, get lost. And that's exactly what's going to happen with the ANC and the DA. Now, it's actually quite important to recognize that the ANC doesn't hit the headlines from all the other parties in the GNU. You don't see the IFP talking about how rubbish the ANC is. You don't see the PA talking about how rubbish they are. You don't even see the Freedom Front Plus talking about how rubbish they are. In fact, they all just get on with their jobs. And to a large degree, this means that the ANC is more receptive to ideas from these parties, because at the end of the day, they know that they're all working in unity for the benefit of the country. But one has to ask the fundamental question, is the DA? I mean, ultimately, the DA says it is working in the best interest of the country, but everybody held their breath when it came through to the formation of the GNU, or what could have been a coalition government. Could have been a coalition government of the EFF and the MK party, but at the end of the day, it was the DA and the ANC that won the day, and many people were very thankful to see that, because of what the alternative could have spelled for the Republic. But then the question has to be, why does the DA constantly attempt to undermine the ANC at every opportunity in order to make the ANC basically want a divorce? And I, for one, cannot answer that, because if you read the headlines, it always appears to be from the same individual. And that's Helen Zille. Now, Helen Zille fought really, really hard to form the GNU in the first place. But at the end of the day, it would appear that her hard work is going to waste, because whilst she fought very hard to form the GNU, she also appears to be fighting very hard to destroy it. Now, there are those that say this is hyperbolic, and maybe it is. Maybe it's just polemics. I mean, at the end of the day, whenever I say anything negative about the DA, half my audience leave the channel because they seem to love the DA for some reason. But I am not beyond putting any political party at reproach. At the end of the day, all political parties, in my opinion, are scumbags. And at the end of the day, political parties are only ever just a point of compromise, the least worst of the bunch. Quite often, we don't get the least worst, we get the most incompetent. But that's just my view. I'm a libertarian. I don't want to see government. Hey, what can I say? That's just me. At the end of the day, I'd be happy to see a monarch return. But hey, I can see how much hate that's going to get. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you that question all over again. Why does the DA appear intent on upsetting the ANC to the point where it actually pushes them to embrace the EFF and the MK party? This seems really dumb. And you know what? You may say, well, maybe that would never happen. Except it did happen. It happened in Johannesburg. If you recall, the DA could have had a continued coalition government there leading that metro, but they refused to at least just be a little bit polite to Gayton McKenzie. The stubbornness meant that they basically called Gayton a gangster, a thief, and insert words here, and Gayton ultimately said, go do one, I'll vote with the ANC. Not because he actually wanted to vote with the ANC, but at least the ANC weren't calling him a puss. Now you see, ladies and gentlemen, I have to ask you the question, why the hell would you do this? We've made the argument before, no enemies to the right. Now that is a reference to the political idea that if your opponents are all on the right, and you're fighting against the left, then your enemy becomes your friend. And you don't criticize those on the right because you're fighting against the same thing. So if all of you are fighting against the ANC, you probably should have all aligned together in order to create a front, in order to fight the ANC. But that's not what happened. In that specific metro, they fought, no compromises. As a result, ANC's been in charge of that place, much to the detriment of the individuals living in Johannesburg. And I have to ask you the question, are we going to see a repeat of that on a national level? I have to also ask the question, why don't they just all shut up and get on with the job? Because I think I speak for everybody in the audience. We just like them to shut up and get on with the work, repair the country. Like, we don't care about the little spats. This is like watching your parents fight. Nobody really wants to hear that. But in any case, that's just my view. You can let me know what you think in the comment section below. On to two other very, should we call them minor news stories. The first is actually around the NHI. So this is actually Treasury responding to the questions around how the hell are we going to fund the NHI? And actually they've said, well, at this point in time, we're not. You see, what's actually going to happen is that Treasury is going to try overhaul the existing hospitals, and that's a great place to start, and they're going to try to digitalize some of the computer systems. That's it. That's all they're doing for now. According to Treasury, when anything goes further, it's going to have to go before the public for comments, and they're going to have to do money bills. And at that point in time, everybody can debate on whether or not it's affordable. But for now, that's about as much as they're pushing it. Now, for those of you who have followed our channel, we did say for some time that this is probably where it's going to end for a very long time. Because let's face it, South Africa can't afford it, doesn't really have the will. And let's face it, the national government isn't exactly, well known for implementing a good executable plan. Talking of a good executable plan, Eskom has put forward some changes in the tariffs. And the changes in the tariffs basically mean that if you have any form of rooftop solar, you could actually get some money back from Eskom. All you got to do is sell your excess to Eskom. I must say this actually happens in a lot of other Western countries and European countries, and it's nice to see that South Africa is finally adopting it. This is obviously a logical way for people to fund their electricity bills, especially if you've got large rooftop solar plants. I, for one, create massive excess electricity off my rooftop solar, and so yeah, be nice to sell it to Eskom, get some money off my connection. There are a bunch of other recommended tariff changes, but let's face it, no one cares. And on to the very final news story. And yeah, hey, we all hate to see it, eh? According to Julius Malema, him and Zuma are not friends anymore. They don't actually have tea anymore. In fact, they don't talk. Malema actually says he doesn't have any relationship with former President Jacob Zuma. According to Julius Malema, where they disagree respectfully. He says he's respectful to the guy, but at the end of the day, they're political opponents. They're political contenders. He says whatever happens with the MK party, that's his baby, it's his child, he must live with it. He says the EFF, in his opinion, is the future and cannot be destabilized by any forms of political opponents. Good approach from Juju, but what it basically means is, for those of you who are asking the question, will he defect to the MK party? At this point in time, the answer is no, because he still believes that the EFF is the future. Malema obviously acknowledges all the individuals that are leaving the EFF and defecting to the MK party, but he says at the end of the day, he thinks the EFF will be fine. He knows that there are people that are trying to destroy it, but he says they won't. He says he will continue to build it. And with that, that's pretty much all that Malema had to say. These days, I must say, Juju does look a bit down. Obviously, forms of political infighting, it's never easy on a political leader, especially a political leader that's been there since the formation of the political party. At the end of the day, many of the political defectors are people that he thought were hard and fast political ideologues, people that would never leave him. But it just shows you, in politics, there's no friends. And I think Juju's just learned that. Hard lesson to learn. But at the end of the day, He's still only in his 40s. Juju has a lot of change that he can do in his life. His political ideology may still change. He may have a change of heart. He may just go into obscurity. Who knows? Anyway, that's just my view. You can let me know what you think in the comment section below. Bye.